Progressive overload applies to everything in life. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So how do we transition that into training? Because we know that progressive overload in training is scientifically proven to be the most effective for improving body composition, strength, and reversing your biological age. So when we're in the gym, it's important to pick certain exercises, but also execute them in a certain way to achieve progressive overload. And one thing that I find with a lot of people when they're starting out, it's really hard to figure out what progressive overload even feels like, or going to muscle failure feels like. So there's a bit of an analogy that I'll use, sort of 10 rep range as for an example. Let's just say you've got 3 sets of 10 for a barbell squat, okay? And what we want to do is we want to sort of get to that 9th and 10th rep with perfect technique and feel as though you can't really do an 11th or 12th. So that's hitting muscle failure, and that's how you're going to achieve progressive overload. Because next week you want to come back and try and lift a little bit more for that rep range, and so on and so forth. And with how our peak shape programs work is that when you're starting in week 1, you'll be on a higher rep range, and then as the weeks progress, we'll drop the rep ranges so you can achieve a nice progressive overload pattern. When the reps come down, the overload will go up. So when you're in the gym, it's kind of, especially in your first couple of weeks, it's a little bit tricky to find those base numbers. So that's why you've got to sort of start light in your first couple of weeks, get the technique right, and then once you've got some foundation numbers, you can then increase the progressive overload and take it to muscle failure for each exercise. Now that's what I got this analogy from Goldilocks. So if you get the weight and you get to 10 and it feels like you can do another 5 or 6, then it's too cold, all right? If you're aiming for 10 in your set and you get to 6 and you're losing technique and it feels like you can't do another one, then that's too hot. But if you're sort of getting to that 10th rep and it feels like you can't do an 11th or 12th, then that's just right. Now, talking about progressive overload with exercises and rep ranges, we also use this for our programming as well when we talk about Basecamp, K2 and Everest. So not only is each exercise and each rep range targeted progressive overload, but so are our main programs. So that means that it's going to be less plateaus, less burnout, and consistent progression all the time over a long period of time. So that's why our peak shape programs differentiate to a lot of others out there, because we've got progressive overload in mind, not just for the exercises and the workouts, but for whole programs, going from Basecamp, K2 through to Everest.